Arrested in Hancock.
UP Homeless Summit in Marquette. Hi, I'm Todd Rose.
And I'm Julie Goldberg. Welcome to Public Eye News. On Tuesday morning, the Hancock police were flagged down in regards to a theft complaint on Quincy Street in Hancock. A 50-year-old male suspect had picked up a construction worker's sawzall off the sidewalk and placed it inside his jacket, according to a witness. Police located the suspect who had the saw in his possession and arrested the suspect without incident. The suspect is currently lodged in a Houghton County jail awaiting arraignment. An accident occurred at the corner of South McClellan Avenue and Wilson Street at around 5 p.m. yesterday. A sedan turning off McClellan hit the rear axle of a minivan about to cross the avenue. One person was in the sedan and 2 people were in the minivan. 2 people were hurt in the crash, but the injuries were non-life-threatening. They were transported to the UP Health System Marquette, and both cars had to be towed from the scene.
The first ever UP Homeless Summit occurred last night here in Marquette. Volunteers exceeding numbers of 100 gathered with UP agencies to discuss several aspects of homelessness in Marquette County. One key point that was at the conference was to allow volunteers from different organizations to network with one another, learning more about other programs in the process. According to one of the speakers of the UP Homeless Summit, there are somewhere in the area of 500 homeless individuals in Marquette County. And the city of Marquette is urging voters to know where their polling locations for Election Day are before the day arrives. There are 7 precincts and 3 different polling locations within the city of Marquette. The 3 polling locations are City Hall on Baraga Avenue, the former Sportsplex building on Wright Street, and the final location is the YMCA facility. The city also stresses that the National Guard Armory building on Wright Street is no longer a polling location and has not been for about a year. City staff will be available until Election Day to answer questions about polling locations.
Fiat Chrysler Automobiles is permanently its Walter P. Chrysler Museum so that the building can be converted to much needed office space. The company said the museum reopened in June and will continue to be open on select weekends through December 18th. Located on FCA's Auburn Hills campus, museum showcases began of Walter P. Chrysler's namesake automobile company and its succeeding evolution. FCA said in a statement that the company will continue to preserve its historical vehicles and will showcase them at internal and external events. And preliminary construction on a massive project to add lanes and improve entrance ramps on US 23 north of Ann Arbor is set to begin on Monday, November 7th. The Michigan Department of Transportation awarded a $92 million construction contract of Dan's Excavating of Shelby Township, said Mark Sweeney, Brighton Transportation Service Manager. The project will add flex route commuter lanes to US 23 from N14 Ann Arbor to N36 in Livingston County. Work crews will start light construction this fall, removing rumble strips and working on shoulders for future traffic shifts. The first phase of construction will take place until mid to later November, and heavy construction will start in 2017. And stay tuned, because after the break, we'll have your national and international news.
Coming up on Austin City Limits.
Saturday after This American Land on Public TV 13.
And welcome back to Public Eye News. 4 days from now, Americans will go to their local polling locations and cast their votes for the next President of the United States. With so little time before Election Day, both the Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton and Republican nominee Donald Trump continue trying to win over voters. Clinton accuses Trump of appealing to hatred, citing the recent Trump endorsement from the KKK in their official newspaper, along with tweets from Donald Trump. On the other hand, Donald Trump says that the constant investigations will prevent Clinton from being able to govern the nation effectively. With 4 days until Election Day, both candidates are not backing down in their quest to become the 45th President of the United States of America. And on its 5th day of deliberations, a New Jersey jury has reached a verdict in the Bridgegate case. Two former aides to the governor were accused of helping to intentionally create traffic on the world's busiest bridge as an act of political revenge. Brooke Silva Braga is in Newark, New Jersey with the verdict.
Bridget Ann Kelly and Bill Baroni were found guilty of all counts related to a plot to cause a massive traffic jam on the George Washington Bridge. The counts include both fraud and conspiracy. The days-long backup in September 2013 became known as Bridgegate and cast a shadow on New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. His former aide, David Wildstein, eventually admitted to organizing the lane closures in Fort Lee, New Jersey, to punish that city's Democratic mayor for not endorsing Christie's re-election. Wildstein testified the defendants helped him, but Kelly and Baroni testified they thought the lanes were closed for a traffic study and that Christie was aware of it. Governor Christie said he knew nothing about it.
I am embarrassed and humiliated by the conduct of some of the people on my team.
Christie's name came up throughout the 6-week trial, although he was never charged in the case. The judge instructed the jury not to consider the governor in its deliberations. Wildstein faces up to 15 years in prison for his role in the scheme, but is expected to serve much less in exchange for his cooperation. Brooke Silva Braga for CBS News, Newark, New Jersey.
This week, we have teamed up with NMU's Media and Politics class to bring you a series we call Poli-Sci on the Fly. Today's topic is local jails.
Hi, I'm Hannah Regan, and I'm sitting here with Captain Mike Lorela of the Marquette City Police. Now, how do jails impact our community?
Well, Hannah, jails are there for a reason. Obviously, as a law enforcement officer, it's our job to enforce the law, and unfortunately, at times, we have to make arrests, and therefore, jails are there for incarceration to hold people accountable for their actions.
Okay, and Captain, when I think of jails, even locally, I think of it being very overcrowded and expensive. Is that kind of the right thought, or?
Well, the Marquette County Jail currently is an 80-bed facility, and the detention center out in Harvey is a 60-bed facility. And those two facilities are at almost full capacity daily. There are people who are waiting to go to jail. Of course, there's people who are leaving jail. So there are constantly people inside the jail at all times.
Okay, wow. And is it common to use tethers to reduce the amount of inmates in jails?
Well, you know, tethers aren't really used at a county level. They're more used at a state level. And, you know, tethers I believe can be a good thing, depending on the crime, of course. We don't want violent offenders out in public with tethers. So tethers can be termed as like a house arrest type thing where people can function in society, raise their families, go to work, and things like that. And
would you say tethers are a good idea, and are they used more often than we think they are?
You know, I think tethers are a good idea if implemented correctly. Again, I believe that as long as it's a nonviolent situation where people can be at home, it alleviates overcrowding in jails. So as long as it's a nonviolent offense and that it's done appropriately, I think it can be a good idea.
Okay, and other than protecting our cities, of course, what are the other positive benefits of incarceration? Well,
again, incarceration or jails is there to hold people accountable for their actions. I believe that when people are sentenced or incarcerated in a jail, that there are programs that can be passed down by a judge as far as getting that person treatment for certain offenses. And help them get on the right path to become productive members of society once again.
Perfect. And well, that's all the time we have left today. Thank you for joining us. And don't forget, November 8th, get out there and vote.
And stay tuned, because after this break, we'll have your weather and sports here on Public Eye News.
Election Day 2016, the historic end to a long campaign. Who will voters elect as the next president of the United States? Which party will control Congress? What else will we learn from the voters? Join PBS NewsHour for special election night coverage. Analysis you won't find anywhere else. Tuesday, November 8th.
Right here on Public TV 13.
And welcome back to Public Eye News. My name is Charlie Evers, and this is your local weather report. As you can see behind me, it is a really beautiful day outside today, so make sure you get in all of your fun outdoor activities before the snow comes. Looking at our weather, as you can see, it is sunny with temperature of 62 degrees and winds coming from the west-southwest at 12 miles per hour, and the barometric pressure is 30.23 and falling. Tonight, it will be partly cloudy with a low of 46 and winds coming from the west at 5 miles per hour. And tomorrow, it'll be partly cloudy with a high of 63 and winds coming from the north-northwest at 4 miles per hour. As you can see behind me, it is sunny all across the UP, but with varying temperatures. In Sault Ste. Marie, it is 53 degrees. Manistique, it is 57. Escanaba, 59. Menominee, 57. Iron Mountain, 61. Ironwood, 62. Houghton, 63. And back in Marquette, it is still 63 degrees. Now let's take a look at your weather ahead. On Sunday, there will be a high of 57 with a low of 46 and partly cloudy. Monday, a high of 57, a low of 47 and mostly sunny. And Tuesday, a high of 51, low of 39 and partly cloudy. Now, although things are looking pretty good for the weather, I heard that there are not some good things happening for the women's basketball team.
Yeah, our Lady Wildcats had a little bit of a rough open to their season, Charlie.
Too bad.
The Northern Michigan's women's basketball team fell in an exhibition game to Wisconsin Green Bay 76-34 last night at the Crest Center. Wisconsin Green Bay opened the scoring in the second minute of the game when Jessica Lindstrom sank a three-point jump shot. Chloe Thompson answered back in 21 seconds, bringing the score to 3-2. The Phoenix and Wildcats went tit for tat until the 6th minute of the game when UW Green Bay went on an 8-point run and never looked back. Bailey DeRoy led Northern Michigan in points, collecting 11. Bree Kasperovich collected 3 steals, and Bailey Dennis amassed 2 assists. Northern Michigan returns to action next weekend, participating in the GLVC GLIAC Challenge against Truman and Quincy. The Detroit Red Wings and Winnipeg Jets are coming off overtime losses of the same score when they pick up today at Joe Louis Arena. Detroit lost 4-3 in Philadelphia on Wednesday night, and Winnipeg dropped a decision at Washington on Thursday night. The Red Wings, who lost 3 straight after a 6-game winning streak, blew to 2-0 and 3-0 leads against the Flyers. The Red Wings last won in Philadelphia in Game 2 of the 1997 Stanley Cup Final and last won in the regular season there on June 25th, 1997. It will most likely be the last game that Jets coach Paul Maurice will coach at the Joe Louis Arena. It was also a homecoming for Winnipeg center Andrew Kopp, who is from Ann Arbor. Puck drops tonight at 7:30 p.m. from the Joe. And this weekend will be a big one for the Big Ten Conference. The reigning head of the conference, Michigan, will be taking on Maryland and will most likely stay at the top of the Big Ten East. Wisconsin will be taking on Chicago's favorite Big Ten team, Northwestern, after an overtime win against Nebraska last week. True freshman quarterback Alex Hornibrook currently leads the Badgers with a 57.3 completion rating. He has tossed 75 of 131 passes for 948 yards. Finally, speaking of the Huskers, they'll be visiting the Horseshoe this weekend to face the Ohio State Buckeyes. Both teams sit at 4-1, and Nebraska currently holds the top spot in the Big Ten West. ESPN FPI currently sits at an 86% chance for Ohio State to win by 16 points. So, Todd, we have a big weekend on our hands with all this football, but I hear you have a professor who's in some hot water over Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's right, Dan. One university executive director is in hot water after, of all things, a hunt for Bigfoot. The head of the University of New Mexico's Gallup campus, Christopher Dyer, is coming under fire after spending money to finance a Bigfoot conference in February. The Bigfoot conference, which lasted 2 days, was followed by an expedition searching for Bigfoot. Dyer, defending the event, said, quote, "It was the largest and most well-attended events in the history of the campus," end quote. The event and expedition reportedly cost taxpayers more than $7,000. And thanks for joining us today. That's all the time we have for you. Make sure to come back on Monday for more Public Eye News.
Program was produced in studios located in the Edgar L. Hardin Learning Resources Center by WNMU-TV, Northern Michigan University Public Television.